that happening. We've got the Irish independent journalist Donnacha Boyle on the line. Donnacha, good afternoon.
How are you, John?
Did you see this coming, Donnacha? I didn't. I did after the final replay, but I didn't see it coming now. Or the Dublin County Board caught on the hop here?
I'm the same as yourself. I think after the All-Ireland final, I think anyone who's been covering Jim over the 7 years of his tenure with Dublin would have thought that, that was a very different vibe to almost every other press conference he'd done in his time there. Like he'd come in after winning All-Ireland finals and he'd been deadpan. He told us a few times that, that other teams were already ahead of his Dublin side, and this would be after, just an hour after winning an Ireland title. And then this year was very different. I think he came in and he offered some anecdotes. His father was in the room. It was a big departure for him. So at that moment in time, I think most people felt that, that felt different. I was sort of reading between the lines that maybe this was coming to an end. But as the weeks went on, I have to say I did start to waver. I thought that maybe he had already signed up a deal for another 2 years. He didn't have to make any formal announcement that he was staying on. So I suppose people started to think that the status quo was going to remain. So it is, the timing of it is definitely a shock. Whatever about the decision itself.
You're a scribe. I'm a broadcaster, Donnacha. My view is I think he's the greatest manager of all time that I've seen in Gaelic games. Would you think so?
That I've seen, absolutely. I was looking at some of his numbers before we came on. Like, they're absolutely staggering. Like, around the time of the All-Ireland final, a lot of people had totted them up, and it's 6 All-Ireland titles in 7 seasons. It's 37 unbeaten championship matches. The longest unbeaten run in the game, I think, was 36 matches to that 2017 league final defeat, and that only came about after Dean Rock hit the post with almost the last kick of the ball. His overall record is absolutely unbelievable. Leagues and championship, played 107, won 86, drew 10, lost 11. So, that record speaks for itself, really. 10.6 average winning margin in the championship, 10.6 points. I don't think there's anyone's numbers we get near to that.
The secret sauce, the Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe, whatever they want to call it, Colonel Sanders, whatever, the je ne sais quoi of Jim Gavin. I think it was confidence, it was humility, a real humility, but a kind of a steely humility to the Dubs, composure in key games, and also no sentiment. The likes of Bernard Brogan battling really hard back from injury. It would be like Brian Cody in a way, no sentiment. But I think the thing that made the difference is in key games, in All-Ireland finals, Dublin always found a way under Jim Gavin.
Yeah, and that was probably, if you go back to the 2000s when they were getting close, and they'd sort of almost routinely, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but they'd routinely blow up in All-Ireland quarterfinals. Like, go back to the start of the Euroleague games, go back to the hammer and Tyrone gave them in the rain one year. And, when we thought they were coming, and when we thought they were ready to sort of find a way to implode, and that was never the case under this team. Now, you can make the case that he had a different set of players who had come through, maybe more successful underage teams, like Jack McCarthy and these guys who came through winning underage teams, that they had a different sort of mindset when it came to those crunch moments. But their ability to dig out games, like, there's any amount of them. I think you go back to that 2013 final where there was, I think they finished with 13 able bodies on the pitch. There was Rory O'Carroll had taken a bang to the head. There was Owen O'Gara was on one leg. He'd done his hamstring, and they still found a way to get through. Any of the other Mayo matches that they played, those finals and semi-final replays that they managed to dig their way through when they were in trouble. The game this year, Johnny Cooper sent off more than half the game to play. A legacy on the line, and you know what? Again, it came down to it was a very difficult kick, but Dean Rock could have nicked it for them on that day as well. So look, their steel and their determination, and to keep winning as well, I think, is the other thing. We've seen loads of great teams who can come along and dominate for a year or two or set records, but that of all the numbers, I think like the 5 in a row is obviously the standout one, but the unbeaten record for 36 games up to the 2017 league final, that's remarkable. Like, they were winning games there that they didn't necessarily need to win, but obviously they just got into the rhythm of it, and just like winning for winning's sake, and never, like, once they had their boot on the throat. I remember James McCarthy talking about it once. He was talking about, once you have them down, you want to keep them down, and by God, they did that.
Just before you go, Donnacha, the ear to the ground, would it be Dessie Farrell? Is he the leading contender, do you think, or would it be somebody else?
I think everyone expects it to be Dessie. Like, Dessie hasn't done much publicly over the last couple of years, but like, his credentials are obvious. Underage titles with Dublin, has worked with an awful lot of that panel, and certainly the most of the team members of it. Two bookmakers have already thrown out their odds. They weren't long coming around, and it's interesting to have the first three in the market priced exactly the same way, and it's Desi is way out in front. He's odds on 49, and then it's Jason Sherlock and Paul Clark, and the other name that's in the hat, which would be a very interesting one, but work dependent, would be Pat Gilroy. He's next on the list. Now, if things had to work out differently for Pat, he would obviously still be with the hurlers, but that if he was in a position, I'm sure he'd be someone the Dublin County Board would be very interested in talking to. But I think for years now, most people have expected Desi to be the next man up. I suppose we just have to wait and see at this stage.
Donnacha, thanks for taking our call today, and get back to that laptop.
Will do, John. Thank you.
Good man. Donnacha Boyle there from the Irish Independent. 53106. Jim Gavin has stepped down as manager of the Dublin senior footballers. Sad to see Jim step down, but the best of luck to the next Dublin manager. A lot of talent to work with, but more pressure now compared to what Jim had when he arrived. That is from Steve in Dublin. I sadly didn't get to celebrate beating the Dubs as a Kerry fan this September. But by God, I'll celebrate now, knowing the ground is crumbling beneath the Dubs. That's from Joe in Cahersiveen. Yes! We might have a chance in Leinster now, says Rory in Louth. Fair play to you, Rory. Lads, it's Mayo's year next year. Jim stepping down, part of James Horan's master plan. Mayo for Sam in 2020. I love people's optimism. That's from Liam. Words cannot describe the job Jim has done for Dublin football. Let's not forget his job at underage level before getting the main job at senior level. A credit to his family and a credit to Dublin. Lisa in Rathfarnham. The news of Jim stepping down has upset me, but also worried me now that Stephen Cluxton could be leaving. Up the Dubs, says Killian in Swords. We've got Kieran Donaghy, star on the line. Kieran from Kerry, how are you?
John, I was fine by.
Not too bad. Are you shocked as everybody else today with Jim Gavin's decision to step down? Does it give everybody a chance now? I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek now, Kieran.
Yeah, I know you're saying tongue-in-cheek. No, it is a surprise. I suppose the way he celebrated the All-Ireland win was different. No, the big question was that because it was 5 in a row, knowing the way Jim operates. There might have been kind of, he might have known deep down this could be it, or that might have been his plan, and maybe the last month or two could have been mulling over whether he'd actually go again when he'd kind of mind made up during the summer. People do that. So, he has been unbelievable for Dublin, and, what he managed to achieve with that bunch of players is unbelievable. 5 in a row is something we thought we'd never see, and he managed to do that, and no better way to go than go out on top like that, and possibly leave the door open for himself to come back down the line as an option in years to come back in as manager again.
Is he the greatest of all time, Kieran?
Yeah, you'd have to say it. He's one shy in Nico, so it's kind of a toss-up between the two of them, but he did achieve the 5 in a row, and then probably, arguably, in a harder time to do so in the modern era. So he had a fantastic bunch of players, and he managed them really well, and there was controversies in his time, and he kind of took them all in his stride, really, and he kind of kept his head down, and you never heard too much from him. He let his players do the talking, but he was that stern word in the background that kept all those lads in check and kept them all feet on the floor. And I'd say set a really good culture is probably what his legacy will be, more so than anything else, is the culture he developed into those players, and the way they carry themselves around the place. Naturally,
Kieran, we know sport moves in cycles. Psychologically today, will other counties be given a boost? I mean, Kerry were very close anyway in September. Will they be given a boost today?
Sure. Like if you were probably in a panel, and you're in around those 5 or 6 teams that'll be knocking on the door next year. I suppose it would give you hope. But you still have to realise that as much as the manager gets a lot of credit when teams are winning, there's a serious bunch of players there. They're getting better. A lot of them there was a very young Dublin team took the field for the All-Ireland last year, and they're not going to be going anywhere. So whoever's going to come into the job, which I presume that probably Jim hasn't left Dublin kind of hanging. I would say there would have been a lot of talk in the background about who's the next guy going to be, and to make sure they had someone lined up and someone ready to go, I would say, at this stage of the game. So he'll be taking on a fantastic bunch of players, whoever it is, and they'll be going. The players have a bit to prove now that that they can do it without Jim, and the rest of the country will be hoping that Jim's stranglehold over that team was a massive factor, and that they might, teams might be able to break Dublin's stranglehold at the moment. They're going for 6 in a row. It's ridiculous, really, when you think about it. But look, teams at this time of the year, it's a new dawn. As soon as you hit January, everything's going to be new again for players. And football year is exciting. Anyway, but the fact that the Kings have lost their manager that has led them to a 5 in a row may give teams hope. But I'm sure deep down the Dublin players will know how good of a setup they have. The legacy Jim has left will mean that certain characteristics that he would have brought in would be kept by the players. The new man would have his maybe idea tactically here and there, but there's going to be the same machine. There's still John Costello pulling all the strings in the background. So they won't be going anywhere.
What was the best Dublin performance you saw under Jim, Kieran?
Oh, look, there's probably too many to single out one. What summed them up really for me, and I talked about it last year, was how they were in a lot of tight games, pushed by good Kerry teams, pushed by good Mayo teams, and they were always able to find a way. And that will be, I think that's what Jim brought, was that huge sense of calm, and I'd say very studious and surrounded by a great team. And I don't think there was ever an angle he didn't have covered. And I think that's what his legacy will be, and no more so than this year when in the drawing game they were losing by a point, they were down a man, everything was going against them. He made little tweaks here and there, and with about 4 minutes to go, Stephen Cluxton comes out from goals and moves into Mark Tommy Walsh at full back, allowing James McCarthy to push out the field onto the free Paul Ganey to create what was a 14-on-14 scenario out the pitch at that stage. And Dublin were able to engineer a turnover that ultimately led to the equaliser. And little things like that, I'm sure that would have been something that they may have talked about, and they would have prepared for, that if there was ever a scenario that you're down a man and you're losing late in the game, you might as well lose by 2 or 3 points and lose by a point. So to be gamble and to be brave and to make those decisions, or empower his players even so to make those decisions, would be his legacy, I think.
You went from Jack O'Connor to Pat O'Shea. You worked under different managers, Kieran. What's it going to be like for the panellists now in Dublin under a new guy, under a new broom? And they've had Jim for 7 years. Like, I was looking at the stats here. They're just absolutely crazy. Like, they won 44 championship games. They drew 3 and they lost 1. 6 All-Ireland titles. The hunger's been sated. They've won the 5 in a row. They've nothing to prove. There's a winter coming in. Is it natural for maybe a little bit of a dip to occur now, or for cracks to appear? That's going to be the biggest challenge for the new broom.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest challenge for the new group. But, I think as long as Stephen Cluxton is there in the background, I don't think any standards will be dropped. He's the most important man now.
Do you think he'll go, Kieran?
I don't know. Possibly this could help make his mind up either way. Maybe he bows out with Jim and 5 in a row, and but maybe there might be a part of him there that's saying, look, Jim is gone, I'll stay there and make sure everything is steady for the next year or two and try and win a few more All-Irelands and go it in. But I think he's the most important player in that dressing room, and as long as he's there, there'll be no standards dropped. Players will be held to the same responsibilities that they've been held to under Jim for the last number of years. And, the foundations that Pat Gilroy laid when he came in and brought those players over the hump of losing a lot of big semi-finals and losing games later on to teams, Pat kind of turned that around, and Jim came in and marshalled it perfectly since then. And as you said, look, they only lost 1 championship game under him. That was the Donegal in a game really could have been dead and buried after 25 minutes. Donegal did remarkably well, and it was a great game by Jim McGuinness that day, to spot gaps in the Dublin armoury and to hit them with them kick-outs over the top. They got them the goals in the second half, but they were reeling on the stage in that game. And if a few of those goal chances go in, maybe Jim Gavin retires having never lost a championship game, which is remarkable, really.
Okay,
but
yeah.
It's a serious gap to fill, and the pressure on the next guy coming in will be big. There's no doubt about it. You're coming in trying to fill Jim Gavin's shoes, and the biggest task for that manager to come in is to come in and that the players look at him with the same eyes that they looked at Jim Gavin with, and that'll be the biggest test for the new guy, trying to come in, and keep that level of professionalism and keep the players in check and keep, the standards high and the culture that they have. Players will drive an awful lot of that, but the manager's job will be to make sure that he steps in and actually tries to improve it, which is kind of hard to think about now, but that has to be his goal, because, stagnant or going backwards is no good for this group. They'll want someone to come in and drive it on. So that's the biggest challenge for the new guy who's going to take the reins, and best of luck to him. It's not going to be easy.
Well, the beauty of sport, Kieran, is that in a year's time we'll know the answer to that, if we're all, please God, still here. But thanks for taking our call today. Very well said about Jim Gavin, and we'll speak to you soon on Off the Ball.
No hassle, John. Okay, bye.
Thanks there, Kieran Donaghy. We also will have Joe Brawley on Jim Gavin's departure at about 3:30 on Off the Ball here on News Talk on this Saturday afternoon. Jim Gavin stepping down as manager of the Dublin senior footballers after 7 years, won the 5 in a row back in September. Now the Premier League is underway in a few minutes' time. Some team news: the leaders Liverpool taking on Brighton at Anfield. Shane Pennington.
Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp makes 3 changes from the side that drew here with Napoli in the Champions League in midweek. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Gini Wijnaldum all come in to start. They replace Joe Gomez, James Milner and the injured Fabinho. Whilst for Brighton, Graham Potter makes 4 changes from the side beaten by Leicester last weekend. Dunk, Gross, Basuma and Connolly all come in to start. They replace Duffy, March, Trossard and Mopé. At Anfield, it's Liverpool and Brighton.
It's a London derby as Chelsea take on West Ham United at Stamford Bridge with Nigel Bidmead.
Both managers have made 4 changes from their last league game. For Chelsea, Tammy Abraham is injured. Kante, Willian and Azpilicueta drop to the bench. In come Olivier Giroud, Mason Mount, Reece James and Pedro. For West Ham, mistake-prone keeper Roberto is dropped. David Martin, son of Alvin, starts his first Premier League game. Fabien Balbuena replaces the suspended Diop, and Pablo Fornals and Michael Antonio replace Haller and Yarmolenko, who are both on the bench.
Now, will Tottenham get a 3rd win under Jose Mourinho at home to Bournemouth? And there for us, Guy Swindles.
Spurs take on Bournemouth, and Tottenham make 3 changes from the side that overcame Olympiacos in the Champions League. Vertonghen and Ndombele are fit again. Sissoko's recalled as Rose, Winks and Lucas Moura drop to the bench. 4 changes for Bournemouth from the team beaten by Wolves last weekend. Billing and Francis are banned, Smith's ill and Harry Wilson drops to the bench as in come Lerma, Stacey, Solanke and Donjuma Grönfeldt. It Spurs Bournemouth at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
And it's Burnley against Crystal Palace at Turf Moor with Adam Jury.
Burnley named just the 1 change from their 3-0 win over Watford, and it's an enforced one as Robbie Brady comes into midfield for Ashley Westwood, who is serving a 1-match suspension. For Palace, it's 2 changes from their defeat to Liverpool, both at the back as Martin Kelly and Scott Dann replace the injured duo of Joel Ward and Gary Cahill. It's Burnley versus Crystal Palace at Turf Moor.
And at 5:30, Southampton play Watford at St Mary's. 53106 for your texts on Jim Gavin stepping down as Dublin senior football manager. Let's take a minute now to appreciate the job Jim McGuinness did. OK, the only man to beat Gavin in the championship. Congrats to Jim and his career with the Dubs, but in Donegal there's only one Jim. Jimmy's winning matches. That's from Owen and Killybegs. Fair play, Owen. OK, Pat Gilroy said the foundation for Jim. Yes, it's been an incredible team, but do we expect to go on to achieve what we did since 2013? Absolutely not. Jim Gavin's done a remarkable job. How many managers do we know in sport who've been as successful with the so-called best team? That's from Richard in Finglas in Dublin. There hasn't been a shock like this in football since Donegal beat the Dubs in 2014. That's from Ollie. I'm a Kerry man. I'm sad to see Jim go. A man who'll go down as one of the greatest sporting managers of all time. On a positive note, it gives Kerry a better chance of winning the All-Ireland. That's from Tomas in Tralee. What a legend Jim Gavin. Done football proud. Will be missed by all in GAA. P.S. There's room in Kerry for you, Jim. That's from Colin and Kerry. The secret sauce I was referring to was having the best players in the biggest county with the biggest production line, backed by millions and millions of basically full team athletes that no other county had. Easy, says Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy. And Kerry got close this year. They couldn't win against 14 and then lost by the biggest recent margin in the replay. That's from Hill Rover Aidan. Well, I think Kerry got very close in that drawn game. Jim Gavin stepping down today. 53106 for your tributes and your questions and your comments. We'll have Joe Brawley at 3:30 here on Off the Ball. And this is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk with John Duggan. And you can also contact us on the Off the Ball social channels on YouTube, Facebook.